سلیمانی در آتش.
Lots with some signs of progress.
Is the sky sending out a sound that doesn't belong to this world, as fire and ash sweep across the continents all at once, signaling that time is being cut short until it's hard to breathe? The first days of 2026 have kicked off with one event after another, where nature is roaring, people are rising up, and holy signs are piling on top of each other like warning bells, forcing us to stop and look straight at the uncertain future ahead. 10 events, from strange-shaped tornadoes, fire bursting from the ground, wildfires, riots, wars, to weird lights up in the clouds, have exploded one after another, swallowing up any feeling of safety we're used to. Are we facing signs we can't just brush off? Or are we trying to look away to avoid the truth that's coming out? This story isn't over yet, because each sign is just the first piece of a bigger picture that's slowly taking shape. Let's dive into each part together, and if you can, please say a little prayer for ourselves and for peace in the world. Write down in the comments. Now come with me as we look closer at the 10 events that show the flames of chaos swallowing up this world. We'll start right away with the first on. 1. The strange trumpet-shaped tornado. The sky over the southern plains of the United States suddenly felt heavy in a way that made the air seem tight, creating a nameless unease, like when you sense something has just slipped out of nature's usual path. No explanation needed. The images in the videos alone were enough to leave viewers quietly amazed, the kind of feeling that hints a chain of events is starting to unfold. This happened in parts of Texas and Arizona, places no stranger to strong winds and fierce tornadoes born from big storm systems. Winds reached over 120 miles an hour, not rare in weather records, but the shape of this tornado was unusually hard to ignore. Drone and phone videos showed it stretching straight up, narrow in the middle, and wider at the top, looking a lot like a giant trumpet pointed at the sky. The tornado didn't last long, but it was intense. Its wide swirl, hundreds of feet across, swept the ground, picking up dust, debris, and panic. The low, steady roar of the wind sounded more like a regular call than random noise. Many Christians saw the shape and sound as a reminder of the first trumpet mentioned in old scriptures. In Revelation 8-6 it says, "And the 7 angels, who had the 7 trumpets, prepared themselves to sound." That line is often seen as the start of a series of events, not to explain weather, but to place it in a bigger picture of warning. When you put the odd-shaped tornado next to those words, the vague feeling becomes clearer, because the similarity is in the symbol, not the science. Revelation 8-7 goes on, "The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And a third of the trees were burned up." That part doesn't mention wind or tornadoes, but it stresses the beginning of a chain of changes that can't be undone. That's why this strange-looking tornado feels to some like an opening signal rather than just a one-off event. Skeptics still call it a random coincidence among thousands of recorded tornadoes, pointing to stats and climate patterns. But the quiet question remains. Out of so many familiar shapes, why did this one echo a symbol that's been in religious texts for thousands of years? If it's a first warning, it's not loud or judgmental, just big enough to make people stop and listen. And once that opening signal has appeared, whatever rises from the ground next might be what makes the rest of the events impossible to brush off. 2. Mayon volcano erupts. The mountain that folks in the Bicol region long saw as a peaceful symbol suddenly turned into something overwhelming, with a column of ash and fire ripping through the sky out of nowhere, forcing everyone to look in just one direction. It happened so fast that videos spread in just a few hours, giving that feeling like the ground had been woken up after a long, angry sleep. Mayon sits in Albay province, standing over 8,000 feet tall, and it's one of the most active volcanoes in the Philippines, with eruptions going back centuries. Local people are used to having it around, but this wake-up call was unusually strong. Thick clouds of ash quickly covered everything, choking out the daylight and leaving the horizon lost in heavy gray. Hot flows of material rolled down the slopes at speeds up to hundreds of feet per second, carrying rocks, ash, and poisonous gases. The heat was enough to burn everything in its path, turning once green areas into black, scorched streaks in no time. We saw crowds of people rushing away from their homes, evacuation roads packed full, and panic spreading with every step they took to get out. Scientists say built-up pressure from magma deep down, along with underground earthquakes, pushed Mayon past its stable point. Local authorities kept raising the alert levels, setting up no-go zones several miles wide, and ordering thousands of residents to leave the danger areas. Urgent warnings came one after another, not to calm people, but to stress that the risk was still there and not easing up. In Revelation 8:8, it says, "The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain, burning with fire, was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood." That image of a great mountain burning with fire from the Old Text often comes up as a strong reminder. When fire isn't just a natural thing anymore, but a symbol of revelation and judgment, seeing it next to footage of Mayon erupting, that feeling doesn't seem distant or abstract. Luke 21:11 also says, "There will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and pestilences, and there will be terrors and great signs from heaven." This passage doesn't explain causes, but lists the effects like a serious record where one upheaval follows another, forming a chain that's hard to break. A volcano eruption like this gets seen as part of a bigger picture, where nature and people both face their limits. The fire from Mayon isn't just burning the slopes. It's lighting up a clear warning about things we've overlooked or taken lightly. And while the lava is still glowing hot, a quiet question comes up. If fire has already poured down from the mountain, what else might get caught in the next spread when that fire reaches farther into the forests? 3. Puerto Patriota wildfire. No sirens, no warning, just a heavy silence so thick you could hear the dry wind rushing through the treetops. Then, from the horizon, a red glow started spreading, like a wound opening up, letting everyone know the calm was over. In the Puerto Patriota area, down in Chubut province in southern Argentina, the ancient forests of Patagonia suddenly became fuel for the flames. The fire didn't explode all at once. It crept in, slow and steady, as if blocking every way out. The air got trapped in smoke and heat, leaving that trapped, breathless feeling. The flames spread over more than 5,000 acres. Strong winds along the mountainsides pushed lines of fire that swallowed whole sections of forest. Towers of smoke rose thousands of feet high, covering the sky and turning daytime into a dull gray. Major international news outlets reported that around 3,000 tourists had to leave the area in an emergency, as national parks were closed off one by one. In the middle of all that fire, wild animals hardly had a chance. Birds and other creatures panicked, trying to escape, many caught in rings of heat and poisonous smoke. The damage isn't just measured in acres burned, but in the permanent empty spaces left in the ecosystem. Maybe when you see pictures like that, you wonder just how small people really are against an out-of-control fire. All our technology and plans seem so fragile when nature fights back in its harshest way. Experts say the long dry weather, strong winds, and possibly human causes created perfect conditions for the disaster. Local authorities keep sending out warnings, limiting access to the forests and calling for people to follow evacuation orders, because even one little spark can start a chain of destruction that can't be undone. In times like these, the Bible comes up as a way to understand the deeper meaning. 2 Peter 3:10 says, "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar. The elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare." Fire isn't just a physical thing. It's also a picture of complete cleansing. Then Revelation 8:7 sounds like a cold description of what's happening. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Fires covering the earth aren't strange anymore. They're a haunting pattern that keeps repeating. That's why wildfires are seen as a sign burning away the rotten things humanity has planted. The forests have burned, the ground is black, but the question still hangs. When the fire starts from inside people's hearts, what's left in the world to put out that kind of chaos? 4. Chaos is blazing in Iran, with the younger generation tearing down a statue of Qasem Soleimani. The air in Kashan is tense as a wire, filled with shouts, siren wails, and smoke from fires wrapping the streets in a wild rhythm that's hard to control. Those first moments of the protest pushed everything past the usual limits, and right now, we're probably wondering what's really being driven to the edge. In Isfahan province, where political unrest has been building for a while, the crowd quickly turned into an angry flood. The statue of Qasem Soleimani was pulled down amid loud cheers. Flames shot up fiercely. Tear gas spread everywhere, turning the streets into battle lines. According to CNN and Fox, security forces were deployed in heavy numbers. Many roads were blocked, and the hotspots kept shifting in just a few hours. Reports of casualties and arrests come in bits and pieces, showing how tough the situation is to handle. Political analysts say the anger isn't just from one symbol being burned. It's built up over years of social discontent, economic pressures, and deep divisions in beliefs. They warn that when trust wears away, any spark can ignite violence, leading to a chain reaction that spreads beyond one city or country. Matthew 24:6 comes up like an old warning, laying out history's repeating cycle. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place. But the end is not yet. These words don't describe just one event. They point to a long stretch of unease, where people get used to conflict and see chaos as something inevitable. As violence spreads, the lines between nations and politics get carved deeper, turning differences into confrontations. Matthew 24:7 keeps shining a light on today's reality. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. Those lines hold up a mirror to our time, where divisions aren't just hidden risks anymore, but have become the driving force behind actions. Many skeptics think this is just a regional political incident, but if we only look at the surface, how do we explain the unrest echoing across continents? The flames in Kashan aren't simply rebellion, they're like a spark that could ignite bigger clashes, where local conflicts easily get pulled into a global orbit. Riot fires have burned bright in the heart of the city, leaving behind ashes of old trust and order. But alongside that, there's still this lingering question without an answer. When chaos rises high, is there anything strong enough to stop the world from sliding deeper into a spiral of confrontation? Or are more flames waiting to flare up next? 5. The Flame of Faith, Ethiopia's Festival of Candles. Amid all the rushed news about fires, riots, and things falling apart, there are still these quiet, slow moments, like a held breath in the middle of a storm. Somewhere in the world, as night falls, little candles get lit. No big noise, no show-off, just enough to remind us that hope hasn't gone away. At Meskel Square, in the heart of Addis Ababa, millions of Ethiopian Orthodox believers gather quietly in a solemn atmosphere. The huge square slowly fills with the white of ceremonial robes. Candles are passed hand to hand and lit with reverence. That light isn't blazing like a fire of judgment. It spreads steadily, creating a gentle sea of brightness in the darkness covering the world. John 1-5 is whispered in ancient hymns, like a soft explanation for this moment. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The verse isn't about loud confrontation. It highlights the quiet power of light that stays present even when darkness seems to have won. Reports say Meskel Square can hold hundreds of thousands of people for the same ritual, making it one of the biggest gatherings of faith in Africa. Voices rise together in song. The candle flames flicker in the eyes of old folks, children, and families standing close. No panic, no shouting, just a sacred feeling all around, as if time has stopped for a while. Psalm 119-105 comes to mind as a key to understanding this flame. Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path. Here, fire doesn't destroy or burn things down. It guides the way. It's there to keep souls on track in a world full of unrest and division. While in many places fire means judgment and collapse, in Ethiopia, these candle lights stand for protection. They show that faith doesn't have to shout to survive. It holds steady even when everything around is shaking. God isn't absent in the chaos. He's very close, in every prayer and every candle held carefully. That light is still burning, quietly but strongly, reminding us that not every flame brings destruction. Yet as these small lights try to hold back the dark, a question hangs in the air. Will this gentle glow be strong enough to stand when other fires, fiercer and more ambitious, are quietly closing in. 6. The flames of war. Ukraine attacks Belgorod. The first hours of the news were filled with quick breaths and a sense of tension spreading fast. Reports from the Russia-Ukraine border area came pouring in, making us feel like if we blinked, the whole situation might change completely. Belgorod, a city right on the northern border with Ukraine, has long been seen as a sensitive military zone with many key supply bases. That night, many reports confirmed drones had struck the Oskol-Neftasnab oil depot, an important link in the fuel supply chain. The attack caused the storage tanks to catch fire fiercely, with flames shooting straight up into the sky and thick black smoke covering the whole nearby area. Details gathered from international news sites showed the flames at the scene rising hundreds of feet high, forcing local authorities to quickly set up a safety perimeter and carry out emergency evacuations. Early reports said many civilian buildings around were affected by the heat and toxic smoke, while firefighters worked through the night to keep the blaze from spreading to nearby fuel tanks. Matthew 24:6 comes to mind here as a strong reminder. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. The Bible verse doesn't describe one particular battle, but points out how conflicts keep repeating like a chain with no end in sight. After the incident, reactions from around the world came quickly. Many countries expressed deep concern about the risk of escalation, especially since Belgorod is seen as a red line in the region's security setup. Analysts warned that strikes on energy infrastructure could lead to stronger counterattacks, raising the chance of a fight that goes beyond just the two sides. Matthew 24:7 goes on to paint a bigger picture. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. This Bible verse is seen as a warning that conflicts don't stand alone. They tend to spread, overlap, and bring consequences that are hard to control. Online, arguments flared up almost at the same time as the fire in real life. Some people showed support for Ukraine, seeing it as a response in a long, drawn-out war. On the other side, many criticized it sharply, saying attacks deep into Russian territory could push the world closer to full-scale confrontation. The two sides clashed hard, showing how divided global opinions have become. The fire in Belgorod was eventually brought under control, but its effects still linger in the news and diplomatic talks. War keeps being seen as a dangerous stepping stone, where humanity pulls itself closer to the edge of destruction. And as the black smoke hasn't fully cleared from the skies over Eastern Europe, another sign, not from the battlefield but from above, seems to be quietly getting ready to appear. 7. Light from above slipping through the layers of clouds, warming humanity. There are moments that happen so quietly, the very silence itself sparks curiosity. On a flight cutting through thick clouds, the familiar sky view suddenly breaks with a soft golden beam. Not blinding, but enough to make anyone looking stop and wonder what they're seeing. The video, shot from a passenger seat, shows that light filtering through each layer of cloud, spreading gently like a warm touch. It's not dazzling like the northern lights, nor sharp and cold like lightning, but calm, enveloping, and protective. In that instant, you can feel a rare peace amid a world constantly shaken by bad news. That warmth leads many to think of it as a sacred sign, as if something is quietly reassuring people they're not alone. The light isn't coming from the ground or clearly from the plane systems. It's hanging high in the sky, close enough to see, but too far to touch. Genesis 1-3 comes up in discussions as a first explanation. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This Bible verse isn't just about the beginning. It stresses that light always comes before order, paving the way for life and hope, even when everything is still chaotic. Some say it's just a rare optical effect, sunlight bending through ice crystals in the clouds. Others believe it's a gifted moment, divine light appearing right when people are most weary. Acts 9-3 gets mentioned too, as another piece. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. In the Bible, light isn't just for seeing, it's for awakening. On social media, debates spread fast. Some agree with the faith-based view, seeing it as comfort amid disasters and conflicts. Others push back, saying, attaching holy meaning to something unproven is too emotional. Between those sides, plenty of folks quietly look for a balanced answer, one that respects science without denying spiritual depth. What side do you lean toward? No matter what it's called, that light leaves a lasting echo. It reminds us that in the thick darkness of worry and division, gentle moments still appear, like a whisper that protection hasn't left the world. But as the light fades into the white clouds, another question quietly rises. If darkness from people themselves grows stronger, will those beams still be enough to light the way ahead? 8. The flames of judgment. America sinks into a sea of fire. The news feels cold and distant, but underneath that calm surface, there's a chaos that's hard to hide. When the decision came out, you could sense a quiet but heavy turning point, like the gears of the world's order had just slipped out of place. The choice to pull out of international climate cooperation came right as the Earth keeps hitting new heat records, stronger storms, and longer wildfires. Groups like the IPCC, UNFCCC, and IRENA, places that gather scientific data, coordinate promises, and help vulnerable communities, now face a big gap from one of the world's top emitting economies. Mainstream reports say this move disrupts emissions monitoring programs, cuts back funds for helping poor areas adapt to climate change, and makes global reduction goals harder to reach. Analysts point out that the U.S. is among the countries putting out billions of tons of CO2 each year, so any pullback creates a ripple effect across the whole system. Revelation 11:18 comes up as a strong warning for our time. The nations raged and destroy those who destroy the earth. These Bible words aren't just about anger. They make clear people's responsibility for the home they're living in. On the other side, supporters of the decision say it's about protecting national interests, easing economic burdens, and avoiding commitments seen as unfair. They argue that homegrown technology and free markets will adjust better than international deals. But critics warn that stepping away from agreed-upon science will cost more in the long run. Mainstream reports note that many longtime allies have expressed deep concern, saying this withdrawal weakens trust and makes joint efforts more fragile. International environmental groups keep sending warnings about rising risks of disasters, loss of biodiversity, and social unrest if climate change isn't controlled. 2 Peter 3:10 paints that picture with harsh words. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The earth and everything done in it will be laid bare. The fire in these Bible verses isn't just an end-time image. It's a reminder of the inevitable results when people ignore the limits of creation. In online forums, the arguments rage on without stopping. Some see this as a practical choice, others as a moral step backward, showing deep divisions in how people view global responsibility. The opposing views clash hard, but neither side has a convincing answer for our shared future yet. The decision is signed, and the world has to adjust to a new reality full of uncertainty. As those commitments get pulled away, the pressure on the earth grows heavier, like a door slowly closing. And while visible fires still burn on the surface, another danger, smoldering deep underground, seems to be waiting for its moment to erupt. 9. The ground is cracked open, with hot lava flowing deep below, sending up thick smoke. A heavy silence hangs over Centralia, unlike any town that ever existed. No footsteps, no lights in the windows, just empty roads under a gray sky. The surface looks calm, but the thick feeling in the air tells you something is quietly burning underneath. Long cracks, hundreds of feet long, tear through the old pavement, and gray-white smoke keeps rising from them like the earth's own breath. The heat makes the air shimmer a little, giving the place a creepy, dark, and scary feeling, like it doesn't belong to the normal world anymore. If you stand there too long, a worry about a fragile future creeps in without any words needed. Technical reports say the temperature underground can reach thousands of degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to destroy the rock layers and force everyone to leave their homes. Geologists believe it started with a coal fire back in the 60s, when flames spread through deep coal seams and turned into a disaster almost impossible to stop. To them, it's just a long industrial accident, nothing supernatural. But that very length of time makes many people uneasy. A fire that doesn't roar or explode, yet keeps burning for decades no matter what anyone tries. Could that really be just chance? Revelation 20:14 speaks of the final judgment. Death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is the second death. That image of a fire that never goes out makes Centralia hard to ignore. When science gives its explanation, Other questions come up. Why does the fire keep going? Slow and unstoppable, as if it's beyond human control. Matthew 13:42 says, "They will throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Those words sound like a final sentence, not explaining the cause, but pointing to the outcome. Centralia stands there as a cold reminder that some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. The fire still burns underground, the town stays abandoned, and one question hangs in the air. When the consequences have already started, where will we find our last safe place? 10. Angel wings spread wide across the sky. It didn't come with noise or bright flashes, just quiet and gentle, like a fresh breath of air in a tired world. The early morning light gave everything a clean, pure feeling that made people slow down for a moment. When you looked up at the blue sky reflecting off those tall glass buildings, a sense of peace slipped in before you even had time to think. Right in the middle of the modern city, one glass building suddenly caught everyone's eye. The sunlight hit the clear windows, bouncing and bending in ways no one expected, creating something magical. Against the clear sky, two bright white shapes spread out evenly, looking just like huge wings opening up to cover what was below. That moment didn't last long, but it was enough to plant a deep, holy feeling in people's hearts, something hard to put into words. The air felt cleaner, the usual noise faded away, and all that was left was quiet respect. Many folks stood there a good while, not trying to figure it out, just letting the meaning sink in. Psalm 91:11 came to mind like a light shining through. "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Those pure white wings, showing up right when things felt unsteady, made that Bible verse ring louder and clearer than ever, reminding us of the protection given to those who stay awake in faith. Some said it was just a rare optical illusion caused by light and modern architecture. That explanation makes sense, but it still left something missing in how people felt. In these unsettled times, why did it appear so perfectly beautiful, like a sign of comfort rather than pure chance? Exodus 25:20 brings back the picture of protection. The cherubim are to have their wings spread upward, overshadowing the cover with them. The cherubim are to face each other. Those wings in the sky seem to echo that old image, showing that divine protection isn't just something from long ago. It still shows up in ways we can't always predict. That sight became a gentle reminder that protection is still here for anyone holding on to faith through the chaos. Not with overwhelming power, but with light, purity, and kindness. We're reminded there's still a way back, still a safe place for the soul. As the wings slowly faded in the sunlight, a quiet question lingered. Will we listen and turn things around before the final challenges come? In that moment, a soft but clear call came through. Take time to pray. Let faith light the way, and let our hearts be guided through the days ahead. The 10 signs have come together like cold chains, tightly linking human history, from the trumpet sounding in a restless sky to the white wings quietly opening high above. Each image doesn't stand alone. They connect into a clear flow, gently leading people's minds toward the final doorway. When linked together, they all reflect the same core meaning. What was written long ago in the Bible is now unfolding step by step. The rhythm of these signs doesn't allow indifference to linger. Fires flare up, the earth cracks open, the heavens send signals, and space seems to close in around each person's choice. This is the moment when words stop just describing and become urgent calls. Wake up from your sleep, pray in quiet, turn back before chaos swallows everything familiar. This chain of events doesn't just stir fear, it forces us to face a crossroads we can't avoid. One side is the burning fire of rejection and pride. The other is the guiding light of faith and obedience. Each sign is like a quiet but pressing question, putting the choice before humanity that no one can make for another. Revelation 22:20 is brought back as a final anchor of hope in the midst of the tension. He who testifies to these things says, "Yes, I am coming soon. Amen. Come, Lord Jesus." That short Bible verse doesn't plant despair. It opens a promise of His presence, reminding us that the end isn't only judgment, it's also a meeting for hearts that are waiting. Looking back at the whole journey of the 10 signs, a sense of calm slowly replaces the initial overwhelm. The trumpets have sounded, the fires have burned. These images are no longer distant stories but direct invitations. What will you do before the day of judgment? when there's no more room for delay. In these thoughts, feel free to leave a prayer or a sincere reflection in the comments below as a way to share your own faith and awareness. We're also invited to spread this message by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel so we don't miss any reminders for this important time. Thank you to everyone who's listened all the way to this point, and may you and your family be kept in peace and protected through the changes that are happening and still to come. Why, in just a short moment, did the whole world suddenly slip off its familiar track? The first days of the year started with fierce fires spreading through cities, the sky twisting into strange hanging shapes, weird lights piercing the night, the sun doubling or tripling up in the clouds, shadowy figures appearing far out at sea, winged creatures shooting up from deep forests, glowing orbs lurking in the dark, and objects with no explanation cutting across the sky. It all hit at once, giving people no time to adjust. All over the globe, order started to fall apart. Crowds poured into the streets to pray together, and nature reacted like it was being pushed too hard. We have to ask ourselves, is this just a string of random events? Or is it a message being sent in ways we can't ignore? We'll go through each of these signs, one by one. And right now, let's say a prayer that humanity wakes up in time, so peace doesn't completely slip away. And now, you won't have to wait long. We're going to start right away with 1. The flames of judgment burning Los Angeles. A feeling of unease spread quickly, not loud, but gripping your chest tight, like the familiar ground had just shifted off its normal path. You might not be standing right in the fire, but the world's breathing is changing, and the peace we once took for granted is starting to crack. No one ordered panic, but that quiet worry creeps in, signaling something has gone beyond the usual cycles. In the Los Angeles area, where the Santa Monica and San Gabriel Hills were once seen as natural shields, the Santa Ana winds shifted direction and picked up speed as if pushed hard. Neighborhoods on the hills from Pacific Palisades to Malibu, and then Altadena got swept into the fire's swirl, one after another. Evacuation routes jammed solid, and the sky turned a hazy orange that lasted for days. That sense of helplessness spread as people realized there was no buffer left between them and the heat closing in. The fire didn't spread slowly. It rushed like a wave, swallowing homes, schools, hospitals, and whole neighborhoods that were thought to be the safest. According to mainstream reports, the fires burned over 35,000 acres, destroyed more than 16,000 structures, and took at least 30 lives, with damage numbers still being updated in the days that followed. Thick smoke columns rose thousands of feet high, blocking the sun, and creating a scene that put the whole city under a giant lid of destruction. In that setting, the Bible doesn't come across as comfort, but as a warning bell. Revelation 8-7 wrote ahead about the start of the destruction. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. The image of fire pouring down from above is no longer some distant symbol. It mirrors directly the burning city scenes. It doesn't stop there. Revelation 16-8 goes on to describe an even fiercer stage. The fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and the sun was allowed to scorch people with fire. As temperatures soared, dry winds howled through every alley, and daylight felt stifling. That warning rings out like a grim guide to what's happening. Some say it's all just the familiar result of long droughts and seasonal strong winds, a pattern that's repeated in California's history. But the level of destruction, the speed of spread, and the heavy impact on densely built urban areas make that explanation less convincing compared to past events. When the fire crosses natural boundaries and digs deep into human life, the warning message gets clearer than ever. If this is just the first wave, then what lies ahead could be even worse, and no one can be sure they'll stay out of the next one. 2. strange lightning and a mysterious face appearing on the horizon. Out on the horizon, thick clouds piled up like a living wall, and right when a bolt of lightning ripped across the sky, a shape in the clouds became so clear it took people's breath away. No need to exaggerate. The picture alone was enough to make you feel like something wasn't right was being revealed. In the Maslock area, as a storm rolled over that old urban spot by the sea, the lenticular clouds got bent by the wind into layers stacked on top of each other. A pale golden light flashed from the heart of the cloud, lighting up a structure that looked like a face with dark hollows and sharp, cold lines, along with heavy thunder echoing between the tall buildings. A creepy feeling spread around, and you can see why just a short video was enough to make thousands of people stop and stare at their screens. Right after that, social media and the news were full of all kinds of opinions. Some folks swore they could clearly see a face rising up from the storm, like the sky was shaping it on purpose to send a message. On the other hand, plenty said it was just the usual pareidolia effect, where people assign meaning to random clouds, and calling a weather event spiritual was a sign of group fanaticism. What do you think? Where's the line between plain observation and belief in a moment like that? In the middle of all that debate, the Bible got brought up not as a final answer, but as something to think about. Matthew 24-27 once described an appearance full of light and speed. For just as lightning flashes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. When you put those words next to the image of lightning tearing the sky and light spreading across the cloud layers, a lot of people couldn't help thinking of a sign that had been foretold long ago. Another verse, Luke 10:18, talks about the fall of dark power. He said to them, "I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning." In the context of a distorted face showing up amid thunder and lightning, this scripture makes quite a few people believe the flash of light wasn't random, but a picture of an invisible battle going on up above. One thing's for sure, that image touched a deep fear in people, where reason and gut feeling clash. Whether explained by science or seen through the eyes of faith, the moment the sky seemed to speak still leaves a lasting echo. And as the storm cleared away, the question hangs in the air. If this is just the first clear sign we've seen, what will come next? How will it show up? And will we recognize it in time before darkness closes in? 3. People take to the streets with the slogan, "God saves." Joy spreads as the streets suddenly light up with footsteps and voices chanting together, like some unseen force is guiding people back to something sacred in these shaky times. That feeling isn't loud, it's warm. It's not fierce, it's steady. It brings out a shared faith that's waking up. Don't we all feel that heartbeat when we see thousands of folks focused on one single message? In a world that's been hit hard by wars, disasters, and worry, the big avenues in places like New York or London are seeing something different. Crowds pour out onto the roads, holding candles, raising signs that say, "God saves." They're not there to fight anyone, they're there to pray. Their presence creates a quiet, solemn atmosphere where every step feels like a plea for peace around the world. Faces side by side, from all ages and backgrounds, come together around the same spiritual anchor. The candlelight flickers in the dark, reflecting in eyes full of hope, like a quiet whisper that faith is still alive and strong. We see a rare kind of unity there, people choosing prayer over panic, hope over fear. In those moments, the words of the Bible ring out like an old anchor that's never out of date. Psalm 46:1 says, "God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble." That verse seems to march along with the crowd, reminding us that even in the storm, there's a place to turn to. As the chants echo between the tall buildings, a sense of awakening spreads faster than any political speech. No arguments, no clashes, just hearts turned toward goodness and longing for a healed world. Joel 2:1 once warned and called, "Blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy hill," like a reminder to stay alert as big changes draw near. From those candlelit streets, the message comes through clear. Faith isn't just inside churches, it's right out in everyday life. The unity of believers builds a spiritual wall, not to push against anyone, but to shield against the wave of unease spreading everywhere. It's a strong statement that when people turn back to the light together, darkness doesn't win so easily. And as the night ends, The candles go out one by one, but the echo lingers, quietly asking an open question. If this call keeps growing stronger in the days ahead, will we join that flow of faith, or stand by and watch the world turn without grabbing the chance to wake up? 4. A figure hanging over the sea. On the misty horizon, a faint glowing shape appeared, standing out against the water and clouds, leaving those who saw it standing still because they couldn't quite name what they'd just witnessed. Off the coast in Italy's Riviera area near Portofino, where the Mediterranean has inspired so many old stories, the scene that day had an unusual, solemn feel. The sky was heavy with gray clouds, the weak sunset light reflected on the deep blue water, and right at that thin line between them, a human figure in white showed up, not clearly standing, not clearly floating, as if it no longer followed the usual pull of gravity. From where people were watching, the shape was clear enough to make you think of something familiar, but blurry enough to leave you wondering. There was no strong movement, no sound, just a quiet presence hanging in the air, giving a sense of something sacred that's hard to explain. What would you call it when science hasn't explained it yet, but your feelings have already jumped ahead of reason? That unclear image made many folks think of familiar symbols of faith tied to this sea, where people have long believed the line between this world and the next isn't so far apart. In that moment of seeing the figure, it wasn't fear, it was a deep, inner quiet, like standing before a sign beyond everyday words. As the photos spread around, the Bible came up not as a final answer, but as an old reminder echoing back. Matthew 24-30 says, "Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." Those words make the image over the sea more than just something you see with your eyes. It turns into a big question about what it really means. From another angle, Acts 1:11 reminds us, this same Jesus, who has been taken from you into heaven, will come back in the same way you have seen him go into heaven. The return is described as quiet but full of glory, enough for those who are paying attention to recognize it without a long explanation. Of course, some say it was just a random mix of light, clouds, and the angle, or even modern tech at work. But the strange clarity of that shape makes pure logic seem less convincing to many who saw it with their own eyes. If this was just a rare natural event, it still left people with a worry that's hard to shake. And if it was a quiet reminder of the return in glory, then the open question isn't about the sky or the ocean, it's about how ready we are in our hearts when the next sign comes. 5. 3 strange lights appear in the night sky. The night sky suddenly became hard to figure out when 3 odd lights showed up high above. They weren't familiar enough to call stars, and not clear enough to say they were airplanes or drones. Those pale yellow lights just hung there in the air, giving a hesitant feeling right from the start, like the sky was purposely keeping an answer hidden. The first reports came from places half a world apart, from North America down to the southern hemisphere. People watching described the same unusual pattern of light. No engine noise, no long trails. The 3 spots stayed fixed for a few breaths, then started changing very slowly, enough to catch your eye, but not enough to guess easily what they were. As time passed, the calm feeling at first gave way to a tension that's hard to explain. The 3 lights weren't separate anymore. They formed something almost complete, a shape that made folks look up longer than usual. Their soft yellow glow wasn't blinding, but it stood out against the pitch-black sky, like they were waiting to be recognized. Talk about it quickly split into different sides. Some said it was just satellites or modern flying gear arranged in formation. Others who believe felt it was something beyond technology. In between those views, the job of sharing the news is just to put the event out there. What do you lean toward? In those thoughts, the Bible comes up as a key to understanding order up above, where every movement has meaning. Revelation 8-6 talks about the moment the messengers in heaven get ready, the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. Those words make many think of a tight arrangement, nothing random. On a deeper level, Revelation 9-1 goes on about a change from heaven to earth. The 5th angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. The order in the universe here isn't chaos. It's running according to a plan set long ago. Seen in that light, the 3 lights aren't just something to see anymore. They become a sign that makes you think about your place in bigger things happening, even if science is still looking for answers. The uneasy mixed with awe that this stirs up is hard to deny. If the sky is sending a message in a wordless language, the open question isn't whether it's stars or drones. What's more important is, when the order up there starts to shift, will people keep looking up in doubt or get ready in their hearts for what's about to be revealed? 6. A faint shadowy figure flickering in the sky over the ancient temple. The moment the camera pointed up at the sky above the old temple, a blurry shape suddenly showed up and made your heart skip a beat, like history was cracking open just a little. In that second, you could feel a chill run down your spine, not from the night breeze, but from the sense that you were seeing something way beyond the ordinary. This happened at Göbekli Tepe, one of the oldest places known to mankind, with stone pillars dating back about 12,000 years. The spot already feels sacred and mysterious, and now it's even harder to figure out with this unclear figure appearing in the sky overhead. A lot of folks compare it to fuzzy images that have shown up over other ancient temples, where the line between past and present seems to fade away. That human-like shadow didn't stand firm like a solid object, nor did it drift fast like a cloud. It just hung there, half real and half fading. Its color kept shifting, from milky white to pale gray like morning mist, then slowly disappearing as the camera tried to focus. The more you look, the more questions come up, because the shape clearly reminds you of a person standing still, quietly gazing down at the ancient ruins. In that blur, many people turn to old scriptures for clues. Daniel 7:13 comes up a lot, like a haunting hint. I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven. The part about coming with the clouds makes that hazy figure in the sky over the temple feel like more than just an optical trick. On another level, Revelation 14:14 adds to the connection. Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud sat one like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. The similarity between those Bible words and what the camera caught makes a lot of people feel like they're facing some deep symbolic sign. Of course, there are natural explanations too, from atmospheric illusions to random plays of light and humidity. But the fact that the figure only appeared for a brief moment and vanished right while being filmed makes it even harder to explain, especially at a place full of humanity's sacred memories. When you put all these pieces together, it's not just a story about a faint shadow in the sky anymore. It turns into a reminder that sometimes the past, the present, and faith all meet in one single image. And if that sign really points to a return hinted at long ago, the big question left open is whether we're ready to face it, or if we'd rather see it as just a shadow fading into the mist. 7. A total of 6 suns appeared on the same cloud. The sky looked like it was torn into layers of light, leaving people stunned and not quite sure what was happening. On just one cloud, several bright sources showed up at the same time, making it feel like reality had slipped off its usual track. That sense of wonder lingered even after the sight faded. This happened in Chengdu, a place where special weather conditions have caused rare optical illusions in the past. But this time, the intensity and pattern of the light didn't fit any familiar explanation for many folks. 6 glowing orbs lined up side by side on the same cloud layer, almost like the sky was putting on a carefully arranged show. Videos that spread online showed the light so strong it blurred the edges between the clouds and the sky, giving an unreal, almost edited look. Those 6 suns didn't overlap or vanish quickly. They hung around long enough for everyone to notice something unusual. Their slow movement stretched out time, forcing watchers to follow along in quiet disbelief. In the comments that followed, a lot of pastors and believers started connecting it to a symbolic view of human history. The 6 suns were seen as signs of 6 stages that have already passed, matching the 6 trumpets that have sounded over the long stretch of time. In that way of thinking, when the final light cycle appears, the 7th trumpet will sound, marking the shift to the last phase that's been warned about for ages. Right now, we're just waiting on that boundary line. What's worth noting is that this interpretation doesn't come from a passing feeling. It's rooted in a system of symbols that's been around for thousands of years. Revelation 8:2 sets it out clearly. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. Those 7 trumpets aren't scattered. They follow a complete order, step by step. When that process reaches its end, Revelation 11:15 describes the key moment. The seventh angel sounded his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven which said, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Messiah." For those who see symbols here, 6 suns on one cloud isn't random. It's a marker that the process is winding down. Of course, science still offers explanations about light bending and reflecting, and those deserve respect in their own right. Even so, it's hard to deny the deep impact this had on people, making many stop and think about a bigger order working behind the everyday sky. This rare moment was seen all at once, and the question hanging in the air isn't really whether the light was an illusion or a sign. What's left open is this: when the final sign comes, will we recognize it as the fulfillment that's been talked about for so long, or just see it as another puzzling sight that we soon forget? 8. A strange object flying across the sky. Against a clear blue sky, something flashed by that made folks stop and stare, because whatever was speeding along didn't look like anything normal. In that wide stretch of blue, a round white spot showed up and vanished so fast it just left you wondering, what in the world was that? And why did it pop up right then? The first reports came from different spots in the Middle East, a place that's used to military planes and close watching. But this thing made no noise, left no smoke trail, and showed no signs of an engine. When the videos were slowed down, it felt even more tense, because its path didn't follow normal rules. It seemed to glide through the air like nothing was pushing against it. The videos show a shape that's almost perfectly round, even all over, and pale white like a cloud packed into a ball. It was there for just a few seconds, long enough to spot something odd, but not long enough to figure out what it really was. That puzzled feeling spread quick, making a lot of people wonder if they'd seen some rare natural thing or something way outside the usual. When experts spoke up, their explanations were careful. Some thought it might be a big, high-altitude balloon catching the sunlight. Others mentioned test drones or secret surveillance gear. But even in those ideas, there were gaps, because the speed and steady motion didn't quite match any known models that are out in the open. With things still unclear, the Bible comes up as another way to think about it, not to knock science, but to open a deeper thought. Ezekiel 1-4 talks about a moving sight. "I looked, and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, a great cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light." That scene brings to mind something sudden, with power beyond human control. In another part, Revelation 1-7 goes on with, "Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him." The picture of clouds and appearing isn't quiet. It's something that makes every eye look up, ready or not. Putting this sighting next to those Bible words, many feel a link that's hard to call just chance. The round, white object isn't just a dot in the sky anymore. It turns into something that stirs the mind between doubt and awe. How it showed up and vanished so quick feels like a short reminder, enough to leave a lasting, uneasy feeling. If one day that thing in the sky doesn't just zip by but stops right there in the open, the question won't be if it's tech or nature. What folks would have to face then is the meaning behind it being there, and whether we're ready for what's been foretold from the clouds. 9. Strange, winged, human-like creature flies up into the sky. In the thick fog of the rainforest, that feeling of being watched makes your breathing speed up, like the sky just opened a cold crack. There are moments when the fear doesn't come from any sound, but from the dead silence right before powerful wings beat against the air. This happens deep in the dense jungles of the Amazon or Indonesia, where sunlight gets scattered into faint streaks. Witnesses only catch a glimpse of a human-like figure, covered in a misty veil like fog, shooting straight up through the treetops. The wings spread wide, built like bird feathers but moving sharp and cold, leaving behind a confused feeling where it's hard to tell what's real and what's just an illusion. That creature moves fast, like a living shadow. Each wing beat tears through the mist, showing a jagged, twisting flight path that's nothing like any bird we know. No cry, no trace, just a heavy emptiness after it's gone. How would you react if that moment was captured clear as day right in front of you, but it challenged everything you thought you knew? Revelation 14-6 adds a layer that gives a lot of people chills. Then I saw another angel flying in midair, with the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth. When you put that image of something flying in the sky next to these words, the line between the seen world and the unseen suddenly feels very thin. It doesn't feel like just a strange encounter anymore. It feels like a quiet warning that the old boundaries have been pushed aside. Isaiah 6:2 tightens things even more. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings, they covered their faces. With 2, they covered their feet. And with 2, they flew. Pictures of winged beings aren't just symbols anymore. They read like ancient records of what people might face when the normal order gets shaken. In the deep jungle setting, the message feels more like a question than comfort. Of course, skeptical views come quick. Some say it's just a big bird, a giant bat, or a hallucination from low oxygen and stress. Others point to psychological effects, light bending strangely, or old legends like Mothman retold. But the question still hangs there. Why does the shape look so human? And why does the movement go beyond what any known animal can do? No matter how you explain it, that appearance still sends a cold warning about boundaries we shouldn't take lightly. When the sky isn't completely safe anymore, and the deep forest isn't just for animals, people have to rethink their place. If those wings tear through the fog one more time, what would get swept away first? Your fear, your faith, or your own confidence? 10. A strange orb of blue and red light flickering through the leaves. Sometimes silence can be scarier than any noise. In a forest at night, with no wind, no insects, no sign of life at all, the darkness seems to stand still, listening to itself. In a moment like that, if a spot of light suddenly appears among the leaves, would you dare believe you'd just seen something beyond ordinary logic? The light has 2 contrasting colors, cool and warm, alternating as it brightens and fades, like it's breathing in rhythm with the forest. No explosion, no harsh flashing, just a slow appearance that makes the space around it feel sacred in a way that's hard to explain. The perfectly round shape of that glowing source floats between tall trees dozens of feet high, moving so slowly it feels like time is stretched out. The colors are deep and vivid, not faded at all, reflecting off the dew-wet leaves like pieces of stained glass in a cathedral. It doesn't feel threatening. Instead, it feels like being seen, as if something is quietly watching the inside of a person's heart. Revelation 21:23 offers another way to think about light that goes beyond natural rules. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. When you put this Bible verse next to the glowing phenomenon in a nighttime forest, the light becomes more than just a physical thing. It turns into a sign of divine presence, not depending on familiar sources of light. Ezekiel 1:13 deepens that feeling with an ancient, powerful image. The appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals of fire, or like torches, a moving light with life and purpose, not something lifeless. The similarity makes many people wonder if those old descriptions are echoing in modern times, in a new form. Of course, plenty of folks say it's just glowing gas in a damp environment or some random chemical reaction. That explanation sounds reasonable, but it leaves out one key detail. Why are the colors so clear, steady, and moving in such an orderly way? When science doesn't have a complete answer yet, that gap in understanding accidentally opens the door for faith. No matter how you look at it, this glowing source deep in the forest carries a gentle but serious reminder. The light doesn't burn or destroy, it quietly reveals the dark corners people try to hide. And if one day it comes closer, will that light guide you or force you to face things you've never dared to look at straight on? 10 events have now passed that are no longer just scattered moments of curiosity. They've come together to form a heavy and clear picture. From fires breaking out where fire shouldn't be, to the sky being torn open by signs that can't be explained, to images that feel both holy and terrifying, everything has shattered that fragile sense of safety all at once. The idea that the world is still running normally has vanished, making way for a hard truth we can't escape. A new phase has begun, fierce and unrelenting. The Bible has long warned about times like these. Matthew 24:6-8 says plainly, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. Nation will rise against nation, But all these are the beginning of sorrows. When we put those words next to the rush of events we've just seen, any sense of coincidence fades, replaced by a deeper unease. Faced with this picture, people don't have many choices left. We can keep turning our backs and staying stuck in old habits, or we can humble ourselves and turn back to God in repentance. Joel 2:12-13 calls for a clear path. Return to me with all your heart, with fasting, weeping, and mourning. Rend your heart and not your garments. That turning back isn't out of blind fear, but out of clear awareness and purified faith. In the middle of the chaos, there's still a promise for hearts that don't look away. Psalm 91:1-2 reminds us, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." That's a guarantee for anyone who seeks light in the darkness and leans on something greater than their own strength. But if all these signs are treated as just noise and quickly forgotten, what will happen when the final line is crossed? When the darkness no longer stands outside the door but floods inside, will there still be time to turn around? That question isn't for someone else. It's for every person reading these lines right now. If something just stirred in your heart, a thought, a quiet prayer, let it become words in the comments below as a personal marker of awakening. And if this has touched your faith, please spread it with a like, a share, and by following along so you don't miss any future messages. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. May peace cover you and your family in the days ahead and in the challenging ones to come. Amen.
Snow in Hawaii? Yes, and it's more common than you think. 8 to 10.
Have you ever wondered where the future is rushing off to as time keeps speeding up every day? From New Year's Eve on December 31, 2025, right through to January 7, 2026, the world has seen one unbelievable sight after another. Tropical snow blanketing Hawaii, lava erupting from Etna on its snowy peak, California's sky glowing deep red, a holy figure appearing among the clouds, massive storms rolling in, fire whirls roaring across the land, objects from space crashing down, strange lights moving invisibly, purple comet balls burning bright, and towering waterspouts out at sea, ringing like giant bells. This isn't just coincidence. God is calling out loudly for humanity to wake up before Judgment Day. So, before we dive deeper into uncovering the hidden truth behind these 10 mysterious events, let's leave a simple prayer for peace in this world as we face a year full of changes. Amen. And now, so you don't have to wait any longer, I'll get started right away with 1. Snowstorm hits Hawaii. It started right on January 1, 2026, with snow covering the top of Mauna Kea in Hawaii, a tropical place that suddenly turned into a frozen world overnight. That's when we realized nature can change everything in just one night. Up at 13,803 feet on the Big Island, a thick layer of ice appeared out of nowhere, like a huge secret coming to light. Nobody expected the land of sun and beaches to be buried in quiet white snow. Those first pictures hit you with a confusing, breathless feeling, and you feel part of the story just looking at the screen. On January 4, 2026, according to Fox Weather, a Kona low system moved into the islands, bringing up to 10 inches of snow on the high peaks, strong howling winds, and unusually freezing temperatures. Roads on Mauna Kea were covered in white. Visitors were shivering, cars were sliding on glassy ice, and the scene was quiet but full of danger. Weather experts looked at it and said this rare event is getting stronger than in 2025, with the Mauna Kea Weather Center reporting snow up to 50% thicker. They pointed to global climate changes as the cause, but the explanations still leave a lot of unanswered questions ahead. Then, in the middle of all that worry, Revelation 16:21 from the Bible comes to mind as a haunting reminder. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceeding great. Those old words flash like lightning, making you think about changes we can't control. From Joel 2:33-1, Another prophecy rings out. And I will shew wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood, before the great and the terrible day of the Lord come. The image of snow falling in Hawaii in 2026 suddenly takes on a meaning beyond normal science. Luke 21:11 comes next, like the final piece in the report. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. It makes you feel colder, realizing that message isn't far off at all. We're seeing something small, but shaking our whole view of the world. This isn't just snow, not just ice. It's a sign, quietly knocking on the door of the future. It's the Lord's warning about extreme climate changes, the signs of the end times, freezing people's souls, and we can't turn away from what's happening. Behind that white snow, there seems to be more left unsaid. But farther away, on Italy's Mount Etna, fire and snow are mixing together. Another terrifying contrast waiting for you in the next part. 2. A strange sight on snowy Mount Etna. On the night of January 1, 2026, lava from Etna poured out over the white snow. Hellfire met heavenly ice, and the scene hit us right away like a giant puzzle. On the slopes of Sicily's mountain that stands 10,922 feet high, bright red streaks crawled slowly through the cold, silent snow, making a picture so confusing that folks couldn't believe their eyes. From a crack in the Val del Bove, at around 2,000 meters up, as reported by Goetna, a steady lava flow burst out and started spilling over the icy surface. Like the earth was opening a wound on New Year's night. It gives you chills seeing that sharp contrast right there on your screen. The lava rushed fast, the snow melted with a hiss, steam rose thick, explosions boomed, the whole area hot and chaotic, while down below it was icy, quiet and still. Drones from Fox Weather caught every moment, showing red fire rolling in and slowly swallowing the white, like two worlds yelling to claim the space. This upside-down nature scene leaves people unsettled, worried, with a feeling of breaking apart spreading in their minds. In one spot, destructive heat flares up. In another, cold ice hangs on stubbornly, creating a puzzle no simple explanation can ease. Revelation 8-7 from the Bible rings out like the first key to it. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Those old words seem to mirror straight into the burning Etna images, making viewers suddenly realize this site was talked about long ago. But scientists come in with a practical view. They explain the volcano activity as just geological rules, pressure releasing from magma built up over months, and they warn that lava on snow could cause landslides, steam explosions, and risks to nearby areas. Two different views sit side by side, one mystical with prophecy, the other cool with facts and laws. Revelation 8-8 adds another piece. The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood. That blazing mountain picture matches exactly what you just saw on Etna, and the connection hits even stronger in the reader's mind. Matthew 24-29 comes up too, full of warning. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Could this fire and ice scene be just one of many signs pointing to something bigger? We look back at the video and wonder what to believe: science or faith, experts' explanations or messages from holy pages. What do you think about what you just saw? Is it just nature, or does it mean something deeper? Whatever the answer, Etna is still roaring, snow is still melting, and humanity's future seems to be heating up like the ice under that lava flow. God is mixing fire and ice to remind us of human sin, a sign that hell is about to spread, and we don't have much time left to ignore it. From far off Italy, the story shoots over to California, where a bright sky red as blood is waiting in the next part, like a mysterious door just cracking open. 3. The sky was bright but blood red over California. The morning of January 3, 2026, kicked off in Northern California with a breathtaking sight like nothing before. The sun came up as usual, light poured over the neighborhoods, but the whole sky was covered in a deep red, as if some invisible hand had smeared blood across it. Folks woke up confused. The streets were unusually quiet, cars were scarce, and window glass reflected that heart-stopping glow. Many scientists say the lingering smoke from wildfires that smoldered through late 2025 mixed with a rare atmospheric event early in the new year. They pointed to reports from observatories and data from Astronomy magazine, explaining how fine dust and water vapor low in the air can scatter light and create that intense red color. Climate experts reassured everyone it was just a natural reaction after a string of extreme weather days. But even with those calming words, people's fears didn't ease much, because seeing the sky look like it was quietly burning is hard to shake off. One eyewitness on Fox Weather described how everything around him seemed stained, blood red. The park, the parking lot, even the distant trees. Lots of people filmed it on their phones and shared it online, along with all kinds of questions. Some said they wouldn't let their kids go outside because they didn't know what was happening. In those moments, it really hit home how small we are compared to forces beyond our control. The Bible talks about signs in the sky in strong terms. In the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 31, it says, "The sun will turn dark, and the moon will turn blood red before that great and terrible day of the Lord arrives." Those ancient words echo like a distant bell in modern times, making many folks suddenly connect it to the scene right in front of them. In Revelation, chapter 6, verse 12, it says, "When the Lamb broke the sixth seal, there was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth, and the moon turned blood red." Those verses aren't meant to comfort, but to wake people up, reminding us that certain moments in history are set to warn humanity about going down the wrong path. Astronomers kept sharing their view, saying the Quadrantids meteor shower early in 2026 might have added to the mysterious feel of the sky. Science sees patterns, while faith sees messages. When you put the two side by side, it forces you to think deeper. Is this just smoke and light? Or is there something more beyond what we can measure? Under that fiery red sky, everyone wondered to themselves about what might be coming. What do you think when faced with the clash between human explanations and divine warnings? 2026 has just started, but California's sky already feels like the opening page of a book whose ending nobody knows, leaving a sense that, behind that terrifying red, more things are still waiting to unfold. 4. The figure of the Lord with arms outstretched in the sky. On the morning of January 2, 2026, a video spread like wildfire from California and really touched folks online. In the footage shot by a local resident, the early sky looked downright unusual. Among the fluffy clouds drifting gently, there was the clear outline of the Lord, faint but unmistakable, with his arms spread wide, gazing down at the world. It wasn't just some shape made by the clouds. It was a mysterious figure hidden behind a veil of white. Even a quick glance made you feel the holiness filling the air. The California sky that day was clear and cool, with the New Year's sunlight still soft and pale. But right in the middle of that peaceful expanse appeared something beyond normal explanation. The image of the Lord with open arms showed up quietly, surrounded by a hazy glow that seemed lit from another realm. Layers of clouds passed over his face as if trying to hide it, then drifted apart to reveal it more clearly. The sacred feeling coming from that scene made anyone watching pause for a long while. The contrast between the world down here and the sky up there only added to the puzzling tension. While parts of the earth are dealing with disasters and unrest, up above appeared a symbol of mercy. That warm halo, embracing the faint figure, felt like an open door in the winter sky. No sound, no dramatic movement, just a silent but powerful presence. The video was taken with a simple phone, yet its spiritual impact goes way beyond any fancy gear. The Bible has mentioned moments like this many times in a serious tone. In the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 30, it says, "Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." The image captured on January 2, 2026, seems to echo that passage closely, making viewers think deeply about the meaning of signs from above. Then in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 13, the prophecy says again, "In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. Those ancient words suddenly feel alive next to this hazy moment in today's sky. The matching imagery gives the sense that sacred history is